Hi everyone, Tara here, and I thought for the second tank update I would do my Dutch Scape experiment tank. It is coming along. It's a big kind of learning curve for me with some of these plants that are newer to me. But here is a picture of what it started out like, and then it went to this, and now it looks like this. So for who is living in here, I have these dwarf Rasboras or Rasboras maculatus. I did have a bunch of my male endlers. I did take all of those to the shop except for my favorite one, who is right now doing laps up and down in the back of that glass. And you might be wondering why this fairly plain endler is my favorite one. He actually has this sort of violet sheen to him when he's in direct light. I think you can see he's about to swim through the frame a couple of times here. He was just a fluke, one of the blue stars. I did try to breed him and had him in with a female for like 4 months or so, and she never looked pregnant at all. And I wondered, like, is it him or is it her? So I took him out and I put in a regular blue star male with her, and after about 2 weeks of him being in there with her, she did start looking pregnant and subsequently had babies. I think he is maybe sterile, but he's still pretty cool and I like him, so I kept him. I just have been kind of wanting to get out of live bears and have a little bit more control over when I have baby fish to feed. I do really like these Rasboras. They are so easygoing and just friendly little fish. I do have a little bit of a hard time telling gender. I've read that the males will be the brighter colored ones and the females will be the duller colored ones, but mine tend to shift a little bit. And also I don't really see a difference in body shape like what I've read. So see this one in the middle that it doesn't want to focus on, is like center spot has sort of faded out, or her. And I'm not sure what that's about. It still seems like a perfectly healthy fish, eats great, sort of chases the other ones away a little bit at food time. So I'm not that concerned about it. But I've got this one that is like half red and half pale. And then right now I've got this one that is extremely colored up, super fired up. And he has been chasing around one of the duller colored ones for a couple of days. So I'm thinking that is a male, and the duller colored one is a female. I also have quite a few blue dream shrimp in here, which sometimes will molt and turn black, and then they will molt again and turn blue. And there's one that has some red on it. I get a few of those from time to time. Even though they've never been mixed with another color of shrimp while I've had them. And I kind of thought something might be wrong with the ones like that, but I haven't really noticed anything bad happening to them. For the plants I have this pearlweed, I'm kind of going for like a sort of twist look to it. However, it is starting to get a little bit, I don't know, crappy looking. So I'm probably going to have to pull some out and plant some tops. And stem plants, there's really just sort of a limited number of times you can trim them before they start getting too thick for their own good. So I have already actually done that with this section in the front. And then I think I'm going to move on to this section here, which isn't looking that great, and keep moving backward. So this is probably as nicely shaped as that is going to be for a little while I'm doing that. The Rotala macrandra narrow leaf is just getting established enough to the point where I'm sort of trying to sculpt it a little bit into this shape. The Pogostemon erectus I did not think I was going to have good luck with in this tank. If you can see those stems in the back, they've sort of rotted at the bottom and just have some aerial roots hanging on, very sparse growth at the top. When I first got this plant, I read that if you have really hard water like I do, it will stunt, even if you use water column fertilizers. So what you're to do is add extra root fertilizers. And I did do that for a long time, and despite it, it was just putting out, you know, weak looking little growths like that. However, this stem recently, maybe in like the past month, has really taken off, putting out a lot of like wide leaves. That one right there is branching off of the bottom of it, and then there is one just behind it there that is starting to do the same thing. So I think, hopefully, that this plant is just taking a really long time to get established in here and will end up looking okay. The same thing is sort of happening over here. This is the cardamine liratra, supposedly, that I got in the order from Buse Plant that I made, I think it was like last winter or last spring. I'm still not 100% sure that this is not Creeping Charlie, but it was really having a hard time adjusting to my tank. Just a tiny little growth for a really long time. I thought it wasn't going to make it, and recently it has been coming back and adjusting to my water. So both of those plants have taken absolute months to get established. And over here I have some Ludwigia repens. I historically have not had very good luck with Ludwigia of any variety. Usually what it does is it rots at the bottom and just kind of holds on with aerial roots, similar to the Pogostemon erectus. I'm not sure if you can see here, but this time it's not doing that. See, those are the stems in the back there behind the Pogostemon erectus. Like, there are some aerial roots, but they're not rotting at the bottom. Just love that like brick red color. It's so pretty. And then lower down where it doesn't get quite as much light, it's a little bit more green. And I think what I'm going to do is kind of eventually have it coming down sort of at an angle around the side like this. I've moved some of the giant hairgrass, Elocara something or other, to this corner. Originally had it over in this corner in the very back there, and it's putting out a lot of these runners and spreading like crazy through the moneywort, which is the Bacopa monnieri right here. And I don't like that it's doing that. It makes it really difficult to kind of keep it contained into one area like the Scape is supposed to be. Also in the back here I have some Hygrophila, the green plants here. I believe I have two different species because this one has wider leaves and is getting a little bit of pink on the tips of them. And this one has much skinnier, sort of wavier leaves. That one was labeled Hygro Blue, and I'm still not exactly sure of the species of either of those. Here I have some Buse that I don't know what kind it is. I'm not sure if that right there in the center is going to be a new leaf or if that is going to be a flower. It'd be super cool if it was a flower. But it is attached to black plastic canvas, and then the black plastic canvas is covered with substrate a little bit. The same thing over here for this Buse Kettigang. This one I've had in here the longest. There is a little bit of black beard on the edges of it. It was pretty covered for a while, but the larger plants are starting to grow fast enough that it's really not collecting that much of it anymore. And I think part of the problem also, this is on the right side of the tank, So I recently added a bunch of grow lights to my fish room, and I've had problems with the pearlweed leaning to the right. So I think that's not really helping the algae situation. I also have more on the right hand side of the substrate than on the left hand side. But that's really the only good spot I've got for plants in here. I'm not sure what to do about that. This is Hydrocotyla Japan, or Japan clover. Down here we have a Lagonandra meboldi red that is not doing that great, but it's doing better than the one I have in a different tank that does not have CO2, but does have a similar light. Down here I've got some Hygrophila araguaia, and then just behind it there I have some Limnophila sessiflora that I moved from a different tank. I have the Styrogene repens. This one kind of constantly looks like it needs nitrogen, and I have been adding that to the tank about once a week, and it's still doing that. It is putting out a lot of little babies, so all the really short ones are new, but I have upped that to twice a week because it's just looking a little on the chlorotic side still. The Vesuvius sword is doing pretty good. Occasionally it will put out a leaf that is straight and not curly or spirally, and I've just been cutting those off. And back there is some Alternanthera reinekii, aka Scarlet Temple, aka AR, aka a bunch of different names. I was not originally going to have that in here, but I like it, so I've decided to keep it. The only plant that I'm still a little bit worried about in this tank not doing well is this Limnophila hyperoides. So it was bouncing back from some rot that it caught from a plant that I had ordered, but now it's just growing really tall and losing all the leaves at the bottom. And it doesn't matter if I trim it and replant it and try to put it in an area that gets more light. It just keeps doing that. So I'm not sure what I'm going to end up doing with this one. But I definitely feel like I need something in this area here to kind of fill it in. Hopefully if that Limnophila sessiflora takes off, it will fill that role. And I also have a tiger nerite snail in the back there that does have algae on its shell. I am hoping that that is not detrimental to it. I keep telling it a rolling snail gathers no moss. But if you've I'm sorry. But if you've noticed any little white spots during this, those are the eggs from this snail. So equipment in here is Fluval Marina heater. I think they may have discontinued those. Yes, I know about the calcium deposits on it, which sucks because I really like those heaters. I have a CO2 diffuser doing about a bubble every 1.5 seconds and an airline in case I need it. That is just a plastic water bottle that I repurposed to make a flow diffuser because the filter was squishing down some plants in the back there. And up here I have just a Aqueon Quiet Flow. I did have a Java fern growing out of it right here. It was like attached just under the lid. It looked really cool, but I started finding crispy shrimp on the lid. So I think they were climbing it and not being able to get back into the tank. So I took that off of there. And then this is just a Twin Star C series light. I think that is basically the update on this tank. In my opinion, the right side looks a lot better than the left side. It always has since I first kind of arranged things in here. I'm hoping some of these things on the left will start doing a little bit better. And if anybody knows where I can get a barbed T connector for semi-rigid CO2 line, please let me know, because I would like to have 2 diffusers but with the same amount in this tank. And I have been all over the internet and I cannot find one. So if you know where I can get specifically a barbed one for a semi-rigid line, please leave a comment for me.